Welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, collectible currency, and the hidden treasures that might just be sitting in your pocket change. And in today's video, we are going to take an in-depth look at one of the most extraordinary, mysterious, and outrageously valuable coins ever to grace the history of US minting, the 1965 Roosevelt dime. A seemingly ordinary 10-cent piece that in extremely rare cases has been known to reach a staggering value of $900,000, which is $900,000, and that's right, you heard that correctly. A coin that was originally minted as a mere 10-cent piece has managed to become one of the most sought-after and intriguing era coins in numismatic history, and we're going to talk about exactly why that happened, what errors and peculiarities make this particular year and mint batch so special, what experts, collectors, and auction houses are saying about these coins, how a few incredibly rare versions of this coin have sold for nearly $1 million at auctions due to mistakes, mint mark issues, composition anomalies, transitional errors, and striking mishaps, all of which have combined to turn what most people would overlook as ordinary change into one of the most valuable small coins ever to exist in circulation. So grab a seat, stay tuned, and get ready because the story behind the 1965 one-dime United States coin is not only jaw-dropping in its details but also a perfect example of how timing, technical mistakes, transitional minting periods, and sheer luck can turn metal into gold in the eyes of the collecting world. And to begin with, let's rewind the clock to the mid-1960s, a period of economic uncertainty and significant change in the way coinage was being produced across the United States. Because in 1965 the US Mint made one of the most crucial and pivotal transitions in the modern history of American coinage, that is the shift from silver coins to clad compositions due to a steep rise in silver prices and a growing shortage in the availability of precious metals, and before that year, dimes, quarters, and half dollars were all composed of 90% silver, which gave them intrinsic value that was closely tied to the bullion market. But as the price of silver skyrocketed and people began hoarding coins for their melt value, the mint had no choice but to switch to less valuable base metals, thereby launching the clad coinage era where the dime would now be made of a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy, which gave the new dimes a slightly different appearance and weight compared to their silver predecessors, and 1965 was supposed to be the first year that all dimes would be clad and contain no silver content whatsoever. However, and this is where the story takes an incredible turn, during the transition and due to procedural overlaps and chaotic production lines at various minting facilities, a small number of 1965 dimes were accidentally struck on 90% silver planches intended for previous years, either because of leftover blanks from 1964 or due to internal mix-ups that allowed silver planches to remain in the hoppers during the switchover, and these rare error dimes are now known as transitional errors, and they represent some of the most highly prized coins in all of numismatics because they are not supposed to exist at all, meaning that their very presence contradicts the official minting policies and dates, and any time a coin appears to break the official rules of minting or contradict what should have happened according to law, its value skyrockets because it becomes both a historical curiosity and a prime target for collectors who value rarity, historical context, and the excitement of anomaly hunting. And what makes the 1965 silver dime so fascinating is that it's not just a matter of silver content alone, although that would be significant enough given the intrinsic value of silver compared to clad materials, but it's also about the fact that these dimes, if struck on silver planches, were never supposed to have been made that way, and that means that their existence can only be explained by unintentional mint error, accidental production, or negligence. And to compound the intrigue, many of these error coins somehow made it into circulation, which means they passed through the hands of ordinary citizens, cash registers, vending machines, and bank tellers for decades, before being noticed by keen-eyed numismatists or lucky individuals who happen to inspect their pocket change a little more carefully. And to this day, many experts believe that there are still a few undiscovered 1965 silver dimes out there hiding in old change jars, forgotten piggy banks, and inherited coin collections, which has led to a surge of public interest in examining any dime from 1965 under close scrutiny to check for telltale signs of silver content or other anomalies. And now, let's talk about the key indicators that make a 1965 dime worth potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, because not every 1965 dime is valuable, and in fact, most are only worth their face value. But if you come across one that meets the right criteria, it could literally change your life. And the first thing to look for is the composition, and although clad dimes weigh about 2.27 grams, Silver dimes from previous years weigh slightly less at around 2.5 grams, so using a precise digital scale can help you distinguish between the two, and in some cases, collectors have found 1965 dimes that weigh close to 2.5 grams and show none of the copper striping on the edge that is characteristic of clad coins, which is a strong sign that the coin may have been struck on a silver planchet, and if that's the case, further testing such as sound resonance, specific gravity, and X-ray fluorescence may be used to confirm the coin's metallic content, and that's just the beginning, because aside from transitional silver planchets, some 1965 dimes have been discovered with other anomalies such as double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, missing reading, partial collars, and planchet errors, all of which add layers of value depending on the rarity, visibility, and severity of the mistake. And one of the most spectacular finds came when a 1965 dime was sold at auction for close to $900,000 because it had been certified as a transitional error with a 90% silver composition and was in near mint condition with minimal circulation wear, and that coin represented not only a physical rarity but also a moment in US minting history that captured the imagination of collectors around the world. And beyond composition and strike errors, there is also the fascinating case of the mint mark, or in the case of 1965, the lack of 1, because in 1965, the mint deliberately omitted mint marks from coins as part of an effort to discourage coin hoarding during the silver transition period. And so any 1965 dime found with an actual mint mark, such as AD for Denver or S for San Francisco, is automatically an error coin, and that makes it extremely rare and valuable because such coins should not legally exist. And yet there have been unconfirmed reports and anecdotal sightings of 1965 dimes with mint marks that are believed to be either struck from repurposed dies, created from counterfeit molds, or perhaps part of experimental runs that were never meant to leave the facility. And if such a coin is verified, especially by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC, its value could soar well beyond even $900,000, especially if it combines a silver planchet with a mint mark and additional striking errors, creating a kind of triple error coin that is the holy grail of error collectors. And now let's talk about the role of condition in determining value, because even among rare coins, grade matters enormously, and coins that are graded MS-65 and above, meaning they are in mint state with very few imperfections, command significantly higher prices than those that have been circulated or damaged. And this is why many high-value 1965 dimes were discovered not in loose change but in original mint sets, uncirculated rolls, or dealer stockpiles that were left untouched for decades. And if you happen to find such a coin and believe it may have value, the first step is to have it authenticated and graded by a professional coin grading service, because only a certified appraisal can determine the true market worth and guarantee its legitimacy. And many stories have emerged over the years of individuals who unknowingly possessed these rare coins for years, only to discover their worth much later and cash in at auction for life-changing sums. And speaking of auctions, the secondary market for 1965 era dimes has exploded in recent years due to social media buzz, viral videos, and growing public interest in numismatics, with online marketplaces, private coin dealers, and public auctions all reporting increased demand and rising prices, especially for coins with verified anomalies. And that brings us to the bigger picture, which is that the 1965 dime represents a moment when history, economics, and human error collided in a perfect storm to create an accidental masterpiece of minting. And the irony is that the coin that was born out of cost-saving measures and anti-hoarding policies became one of the most hoarded and valuable coins in the collector world. And even now, decades later, the allure of finding a 1965 silver dime or era variant continues to inspire treasure hunts, collector conventions, and online forums filled with enthusiasts eager to share their discoveries, theories, and test results. And if you're watching this and wondering whether it's worth checking your old coin jars or visiting a local coin shop, the answer is a resounding yes, because you never know when that simple-looking dime might turn out to be one of the rare few that defied the rules, escaped. Where we unravel the incredible story of a seemingly ordinary 1978 one-dime United States coin that, against all expectations and far beyond its face value of just 10 cents, has astoundingly been valued at over $0.21 million by collectors, numismatists, and auctioneers due to a combination of mysterious minting errors, historical significance, and extremely rare attributes that only a very small number of surviving specimens are known to carry, which make this humble little coin one of the most Sought after and debated hidden treasures in American numismatic history, and as we explore this topic, be sure to stay tuned because you won't believe how an everyday pocket change item became a six-figure collectible piece simply because of small but crucial anomalies that transformed it into a rare gem worth a fortune in the collector's market. And it all begins back in the year 1978, a time when the US Mint was producing Roosevelt dimes at various minting facilities across the country, namely Philadelphia, which traditionally issued coins without a mint mark at the time, Denver, which used the D mint mark, and San Francisco, known for producing proof coins bearing the S mint mark. And although millions of 1978 Roosevelt dimes were struck and circulated, which would make any logical person think that these coins are practically worthless due to their abundance, the story takes a sharp turn when a tiny batch of these coins were found with errors so unusual and distinctive that they could not be explained away as simple misstrikes or typical manufacturing flaws, but rather as anomalies created by misaligned dies, overpolished die surfaces, improperly punched mint marks, and in some instances even double die obverse and reverse errors, which dramatically increase a coin's rarity. And when these features are combined with top-tier preservation such as MS-67 or higher grading by professional services like PCGS or NGC, the value of these coins skyrockets, especially when they are authenticated to have unintentional die varieties, mint mark inconsistencies, or edge-related anomalies such as broad strikes, missing reads, or off-center strikes that occurred during the coin's production process due to mechanical failures or human error. And among the rarest types of 1978 dimes fetching such astronomical valuations include those that were struck on planches intended for foreign coins like centavo blanks, or those that have incorrect metal composition where the typical copper nickel-clad layer was either missing or misapplied, resulting in a coin with an unusual color tone and weight that can only be identified through X-ray fluorescence analysis or metallurgical testing. And it's these exact coins that collectors drool over because they are literally one of a kind or exist in quantities so low, perhaps even a single known specimen, that their market value becomes less about the denomination and more about the historical narrative, the authenticity of the mint era, and the emotional and financial investment a collector is willing to place on owning a tangible mistake that bypassed quality controls in one of the most secure and technologically advanced mints in the world, which itself adds layers of mystery and allure to the coin. And when we dig even deeper into the mint mark errors, the 1978 dime becomes even more intriguing, because although the Denver Mint was responsible for producing a massive share of circulation coins, a few rare pieces have surfaced without a mint mark, or worse, with a weakly struck D that appears ghost-like or nearly invisible, leading to confusion among the untrained eye who might mistake these coins for Philadelphia issues when in fact they are the result of a damaged minting punch or improperly seated die, leading to what experts classify as RPM or repunched mint marks. And these coins often escape notice until carefully examined under magnification, and when authenticated by reputable grading agencies, their auction value explodes, particularly if combined with other die features like doubling on the obverse Roosevelt's eye, mouth, or date, and even more so if the coin has never been cleaned, circulated, or scratched, which would otherwise lower its numismatic value significantly. And to understand the full gravity of how a 10-cent coin becomes worth over $200,000, you need to appreciate the intense passion and cutthroat competition that exists within elite coin collecting circles, where rarity, provenance, and condition rule the market, and where a single overlooked detail like a doubled die or off-metal strike can mean the difference between pocket change and life-changing wealth. And when a 1978 dime shows signs of having been struck through grease, where the details of the design are unusually faint or missing altogether due to lubricant clogging the die, or struck on a defective planchette with laminations peeling off, it becomes more than a manufacturing defect, it becomes a story. And stories sell in numismatics, especially when backed by tangible evidence, expert consensus, and grade certified plastic holders bearing the mark of globally trusted grading services, which in turn create investor confidence and auction momentum, because most of the high-value 1978 dimes that have crossed the six-figure threshold have done so not just because of their era, but also because of timing, market demand, publicity, and in many cases provenance. If a coin was previously owned by a famous collector or discovered in an unusual way, such as in an inherited collection or old bankroll unopened since the 70s, its backstory adds another emotional layer that drives buyers into bidding wars. And speaking of auctions, some of the record-breaking 1978 dimes were first discovered by complete amateurs who had no idea of their coin's value and simply posted a photo online or took it to a local coin dealer, only to find themselves catapulted into the center of attention within the numismatic community with offers pouring in from collectors, dealers, and even museums eager to acquire a sample of this rare and bizarre misprint of American coinage history. And while there is no official documentation from the US Mint confirming the exact number of these erroneous 1978 dimes that exist, estimates by experts suggest no more than a handful and possibly fewer than 10 that have reached top-tier grading with known minting anomalies, strong eye appeal, and verified provenance, all of which are critical in pushing the coin's market value into the hundreds of thousands, especially in a hobby where condition is king and eye-catching anomalies are queen. And it's not just errors that make these coins valuable, it's the convergence of multiple variables that are so astronomically rare to occur simultaneously, including error type, clarity of the error, placement on the die, quality of the planchet, overall preservation, and whether the coin has been altered in any way, which is why coins found in original mint sets or proof sets sometimes contain unexpected treasures, especially if the error occurred late in the production cycle and somehow bypassed all final inspections, making it into circulation or collector sets unnoticed until decades later. And now imagine the adrenaline rush of a collector who stumbles upon a 1978 dime in their pocket change that turns out to be one of these few priceless specimens, a coin that the world overlooked for more than 40 years, now becoming the crown jewel of a personal collection or the centerpiece of a high-profile auction. And this is precisely why coin hunting remains such a popular hobby, not just among historians and numismatists, but also among investors, flippers, and everyday people searching for forgotten value in everyday objects, because in rare cases like the 1978 dime, that overlooked piece of metal could hold the key to a small fortune. And what's even more exciting is that most people still don't realize that these coins can exist in plain sight, which means that out there somewhere, perhaps even in your own home, might be a dime worth over $200,000 simply waiting to be discovered, studied, graded, and sold to the highest bidder. And with the rise of social media platforms, online auction houses, and numismatic forums, the awareness around these rare error coins is rapidly growing, giving rise to a new generation of enthusiasts who are turning their attention to coins minted in the 1970s, especially those with unusual features that deviate from the norm. And the 1978 dime is now firmly entrenched in that category, not only due to the rarity of its verified errors, but also because of the surge in demand for US coinage anomalies that represent a piece of history, a quirk of technology, and a unique financial opportunity, all rolled into one tiny disc of metal. And as we continue to see prices rise for these unique coins, especially those graded at MS68 or better with dramatic errors or multiple die anomalies, the message becomes clear that hidden treasures do indeed exist in the numismatic world, and sometimes they come in the form of something as deceptively simple as a 1978 dime. And the only way to find them is to look closely, know what to look for, and act when opportunity presents itself, because the next legendary error coin could very well be in your possession right now. And the only thing separating you from discovering its true value is knowledge, patience, and maybe a little bit of luck. Where we dive deep into the hidden treasure of American coinage, a journey that could literally change your financial future if you happen to stumble across a simple-looking coin with a shocking value. So stick around as we explore the astonishing story behind the 1988 D1 dime USA coin, a coin that, while it may seem like an ordinary 10-cent piece to the untrained eye, is actually valued at an unbelievable $670,000 due to its rare minting errors, anomalies, and highly collectible features that have captured the attention of numismatists, collectors, and auction houses worldwide. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this small silver coin from decades ago is now worth nearly $750,000, and how you might just be holding one in your pocket or forgotten change jar at home, because the United States Mint, as efficient and precise as it is, occasionally produces coins that leave the presses with unique characteristics, unintended design elements, misplaced mint marks, die clashes, double strikes, off-center prints, planchet flaws, transitional errors, and so on, that accidentally give rise to some of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. And the 1988 D-dime is one such case, an anomaly born from a perfect storm of mechanical missteps, minting oversight, and resulting scarcity. As we begin this deep dive into the anatomy of this special coin, it's essential to understand the context of its production. The Denver Mint in 1988 was engaged in massive output, producing millions of dimes as part of routine circulation, and yet, within this sea of uniformity, something went awry. A batch of dimes emerged with distinct characteristics that immediately set them apart from the rest, whether through errors in the mint mark placement, doubling of design elements, or striking issues that affected the coin's final appearance and structural integrity. Collectors quickly took notice of a few mysterious coins from this year that bore all the signs of becoming legends in the numismatic community, and as word spread, so too did the scrutiny and expert examination, revealing that this wasn't just a fluke or minor anomaly but rather a true treasure trove of value buried in plain sight. The core of the value lies in the variety and nature of the minting errors discovered on select 1988 D dimes. For instance, some show a dramatic misalignment of the obverse and reverse dies resulting in a visible off-center strike, a mistake that usually happens when the coin blank is improperly seated within the coining press at the moment of impact, resulting in a final product that's partially blank on one side and shifted in design layout. And while off-center errors are known in coinage, it's the degree and severity that matter, with 50% or more off-center dimes being extremely rare, and on a coin from this specific year and mint, such an error is virtually unheard of, driving its value through the roof. Additionally, there are confirmed reports of double die obverse versions of the 1988 D dime, where elements of the coin's front, especially the word Liberty and the date 1988, appear to have a ghost-like duplication, a result of the die receiving two impressions that weren't properly aligned. And while double dies are sometimes subtle, on certain 1988 D specimens, they are bold, clearly visible to the naked eye, and considered some of the most dramatic examples known, adding enormous value in the eyes of collectors. Another key issue contributing to the coin's incredible worth is the presence of mint mark anomalies, as the D indicating the Denver Mint is supposed to be neatly placed with consistent font and alignment, yet some coins have been found where the D is either missing entirely, possibly due to grease-filled dies, or is mislocated, floating higher or lower than expected, or even struck at an angle. And mint mark errors have long been a major point of interest in coin collecting, because they often suggest a breakdown in quality control and result in extremely limited production numbers for the flawed variant, making each of these coins one of a kind or among a very small known population, a factor which significantly boosts rarity and thus value. But it doesn't end there, because other specimens have surfaced with clipped planches, meaning the coin blank was improperly punched out from the metal sheet, leaving a curved or irregular cut on one or more edges of the dime. And while such errors exist across denominations, their appearance on a 1988 D dime alongside other error types on the same coin pushes it into ultra-rare territory, a multi-error coin being far more desirable than one with a single flaw. Some even display die cracks and cuts, raised, irregular bumps or lines where the die itself cracked or broke during use, transferring the imperfection directly onto the coin's surface, creating natural but unintended ridges or shapes that add a unique texture and appearance to the coin, making each one almost like a fingerprint, no two alike. And when you add in the presence of partial collar strikes, where the retaining collar used to shape the coin fails to fully engage, causing a distorted, slightly expanded rim, you have yet another layer of complexity and error to increase the coin's mystique and desirability. And all of this would be less significant if not for the scarcity of such error late in 1988 D dimes, with experts estimating that perhaps only a few dozen of these exceptional pieces exist, and fewer still in high-grade condition, meaning those that haven't suffered damage, excessive wear, or cleaning that could diminish their appeal to collectors and investors, and those rare few that have surfaced at major coin shows or been authenticated by third-party grading companies like PCGS and NGC have been snapped up by high-end collectors for six-figure sums, with bidding wars erupting at auctions due to the extreme competition over owning such a rarity. And when one 1988 D dime featuring a combination of double die, off-center strike, and misplaced mint mark surfaced in near-mint state, it sold for a staggering $670,000, shocking even seasoned collectors and setting a new benchmark for what modern-era error coins could command. And the interest hasn't waned. In fact, more eyes than ever are watching for such coins, hunting through change jars, coin rolls, estate sales, and online listings in the hopes of uncovering a lost fortune. And the possibility is very real, since the majority of Americans remain unaware that such valuable errors even exist, meaning that one could be lying unnoticed in someone's dresser drawer or passed back in change at a local store. And this is where education and awareness become crucial, because knowing what to look for, slight misalignments, doubled features, missing or odd-looking mint marks, unusual edges or cuts, even faint cracks or bumps, can make the difference between spending a dime and cashing in a life-changing windfall. And understanding the minting process itself helps provide context for why these errors are so rare and valuable, because the journey from blank planchette to finished coin involves numerous steps: metal strip rolling, blanking, annealing, washing, upsetting, and striking, and each step carries the potential for something to go wrong, especially in older equipment used during the 1980s when technology was not as advanced or Automated as it is today, meaning more opportunity for human error or mechanical wear to produce flawed coins, and with fewer quality control measures in place compared to modern mints, it's entirely plausible that a small batch of defective dimes made it out undetected, circulated briefly, and then disappeared into obscurity, until sharp-eyed collectors began piecing the clues together. And in recent years, with the rise of digital communities, YouTube coin channels, Facebook groups, and online auction sites, stories of found treasures like the 1988 D-era dime have gone viral, inspiring a new generation of collectors and treasure hunters to take up the hobby, many of whom are finding real success, not just with dimes but with pennies, nickels, quarters, and other denominations from key years that feature their own unique errors and anomalies. And while some may dismiss coin collecting as an old-fashioned or niche interest, the truth is that it blends history, science, art, and the thrill of discovery in a way few other pastimes can match, offering both intellectual satisfaction and the potential for serious financial gain. And in the case of the 1988 D-dime, it's a stark reminder that enormous value can hide in the most unsuspecting places, just waiting for someone with knowledge, patience, and a bit of luck to uncover it. So take a closer look at your change, examine those older coins, grab a magnifier and check for doubling, off-centering, weird mint marks or odd rims. Because the next time you're handed a dime, it might just be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity disguised as pocket change. And with coin prices continuing to rise and collector interest booming, especially in rare era coins, there's never been a better time to get involved in the hobby and explore the treasures that might already be in your possession. And if you're inspired by the story of the 1988 D-dime, don't stop here, learn more. Join coin forums, visit local coin shows, subscribe to expert newsletters, and educate yourself about what makes a coin valuable, because armed with the right knowledge, you can turn an everyday object into an extraordinary discovery, much like the people who have already profited from finding one of the rarest modern dimes in existence. A coin that was minted with a value of just 10 cents but today stands proudly as a $670,000 marvel of numismatic history. And this incredible valuation isn't just about metal or mistake, it's about history, rarity, collector psychology, and the stories we attach to PH.